Hello from Mindset Daily, wishing you a day full of health, peace, and happiness. Thank you for watching the Mindset Daily channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe to support us. Thank you so much.
What if the people closest to you aren't who they seem? What if the truth was never hidden? It was just waiting for you to see it. And what if God was the one revealing it all, little by little, for your protection? Sometimes, in life, you find yourself surrounded by people who appear to have your best interests at heart. They say all the right things. They show up when it matters most. They give you every reason to believe they are sincere. But as time passes, something begins to shift. Slowly, the truth starts to rise to the surface. You begin to notice that their actions don't align with their words. They smile at you, but you sense something off. They cheer for your success in front of others. Yet behind closed doors, they quietly undermine you. This isn't just coincidence or imagination. It's not simply a gut feeling. It is God allowing you to see how fake they were all along. And when God begins to reveal the truth, it often starts in subtle ways. You might overhear a comment that doesn't sit right. You might catch a glimpse of their true attitude when they think no one is watching. Sometimes, you won't even have physical proof, just an undeniable feeling deep in your spirit that something is wrong. That's not paranoia. It's discernment. It's the quiet warning from God, a divine alert meant not to divide, but to protect. Have you ever been in a situation where someone you trusted suddenly turned against you? Maybe it was a close friend who you believed had your back, only to find out they were spreading rumors behind yours. Or perhaps it was a co-worker who seemed supportive, yet was secretly sabotaging your efforts. It hurts, but here's the truth. God doesn't reveal these things to break you. He reveals them to build you. He doesn't expose deception to cause pain. He does it so you won't build your life on false foundations. Because God has a way of pulling back the curtain, not to shame, but to save. When God begins exposing what needs to be seen, it might not happen instantly. But make no mistake, clarity will come. You may be left wondering why someone you cared about suddenly changed. Why did they pull away? Why did their attitude shift without explanation? The truth is, God sees what you cannot see. He hears the conversations you were never invited to. He knows the intentions behind smiles and the motives behind kind words. While you're focused on appearances, God is focused on the heart. So when He reveals the truth, believe it. Don't try to explain it away. Don't make excuses for their behavior just because of shared history or emotional ties. Sometimes, we confuse loyalty with responsibility, but there's a difference. Your loyalty should never become your liability. Because sometimes, betrayal isn't meant to crush you. It's meant to teach you. When someone reveals their true colors, God is using that moment to teach you something deeper. He's guiding you to see through the surface and recognize deception. He's building your ability to protect your heart while keeping your faith intact. And most importantly, He's teaching you to trust Him above all else. You may lose a relationship you once cherished, but you gain spiritual wisdom. You may walk through a lonely season, but you'll find a deeper intimacy with God. And often, the exposure of fake people in your life isn't really about them. It's about you. It's about who you're becoming. It's preparation for the journey ahead. God knows exactly where He's taking you. He knows the blessings lined up for your future. And sometimes, before He can release those blessings, He has to clear the path. He removes those who would weigh you down, those who might resent your growth, sabotage your calling, or taint the very promise He's guiding you toward. The truth is, not everyone is meant to go with you into your next chapter. Some people are only part of a season. And when that season ends, God will show you. But don't let that revelation turn into resentment. You don't have to hold on to bitterness or anger. You can let go with grace, knowing that their exit is making room for something greater. Their departure isn't a disruption. It's part of God's plan. You can forgive them, not because they necessarily deserve your forgiveness, but because you deserve peace. You can release them, not because it's painless, but because you've chosen to trust God's direction over your emotional attachment. When God lets you see how fake someone is, it's not only about them. It's also an invitation to reflect inward. Have you overlooked the warning signs? Have you prioritized loyalty over your own emotional and spiritual well-being? Sometimes, God uses these moments to teach you a powerful lesson. Stop placing yourself in situations that are bound to cause pain. He may be asking you to raise your standards, to set firmer boundaries, and to choose relationships from a place of wisdom rather than need. It's essential to understand that exposure is not rejection, it's redirection. God isn't leaving you behind or stripping you of something valuable. He's clearing out what was never meant to stay, so he can bring in what is authentic, uplifting, and aligned with his purpose for your life. When you let go of those who were never truly for you, you open the door to real, meaningful connections. When you release the counterfeit, you create space for what's truly meant for you. So the next time someone shows you their true colors, resist the urge to repaint them. Don't deny the truth just to preserve a false sense of comfort. When God reveals who someone really is, accept it. Don't argue with reality. Instead, thank him for opening your eyes, for shielding you from greater harm, and for giving you the strength to keep walking forward. Because when you finally recognize how fake they were, it's not the end. It's not a failure. It's the beginning of something better. It's not a setback. It's a setup for what God is preparing next in your life. Yes, it hurts to realize that someone you trusted wasn't genuine. The sting of betrayal and the heaviness of disappointment can shake your foundation. You might find yourself questioning everything. Why it happened, why God allowed it, and how you're supposed to move forward. But remember this, let me tell you, exposure isn't always a curse. In fact, sometimes it's one of the greatest blessings God can give. When he pulls back the curtain and reveals the truth, it's not to punish you. It's to protect you, to redirect you, and ultimately to prepare you for something greater. We often ask God for blessings. We pray for success, for growth, for the next big step in life. But what we don't always realize is that before God can elevate you, he needs to reveal what can't go with you. Because not everything or everyone is meant to follow you to your next level. There may be people in your life right now who smile in your presence, but secretly hope for your downfall. There may be relationships that seem stable on the surface, but are riddled with hidden cracks underneath. And because he loves you far too much to let you build your future on shaky ground, God allows the truth to rise. He allows you to see how fake they were, not to tear you down, but to lift you up in wisdom and strength. When God reveals someone's true character, it might feel like you're losing something important. But in reality, it's a divine act of protection. Think about it. What if God had let you keep trusting someone who only stayed close for their own benefit? What if he allowed you to continue investing in a relationship that was slowly draining your spirit, your peace, or even your resources? God sees what you don't. He hears the whispers you'll never hear and knows the intentions behind every action. So when he shows you the truth, recognize it as a sign of his love, not his judgment. The exposure of fake people isn't meant to make you bitter. It's meant to make you better. It's God's way of teaching you discernment. It's his way of showing you how to guard your heart without building walls around it. It's a quiet but powerful lesson in wisdom, in resilience, and in learning who's really for you and who never was. Your worth is not defined by who chooses to stay in your life or who decides to walk away. It's defined by who God says you are. So when someone's mask finally falls off, don't be so quick to pick it up and place it back on for them. Don't rush to justify their actions or smooth over their deceit with excuses. When God shows you something, believe him. Trust what he reveals, and more importantly, act on it. Sometimes, God will allow things to fall apart. Not to destroy you, but to expose the truth that was hidden all along. It might feel like your world is crumbling, but in reality, he's clearing space for a new beginning. You see, God isn't just protecting you from harmful people. He's preparing you for meaningful relationships. He's not only shielding you from pain, he's positioning you for purpose. But to do that, he has to separate what's real from what's counterfeit. He has to strip away what's not meant for you, so you're open and ready to receive what is. Yes, it can hurt. And yes, it can leave you questioning everything. Why would God allow this betrayal? Why would we let you get so close to someone who wasn't sincere? But here's a perspective shift. What if the betrayal wasn't meant to break you, but to launch you into your next chapter? Sometimes, the greatest betrayals are the very things that lead to our greatest breakthroughs. Think about it. What if the exposure of a fake friend is exactly what sets you on the path to discover a loyal, genuine one? What if the end of that toxic relationship is the doorway to real, lasting love? What if the closing of this painful chapter is actually God's way of handing you the pen to write a far more powerful story? The truth is, God never removes anything from your life without intention. He never reveals the truth without purpose. When someone's real nature is exposed, try not to focus solely on what you've lost. Instead, focus on what you're gaining: clarity, peace, freedom, and a stronger, more personal connection with God. Instead of constantly asking, "Why did this happen to me?" try asking, "What is God trying to teach me through this?" Because every exposure is an education. Every revelation is a lesson in disguise. And sometimes, the exposure isn't even really about the other person. It's about you. It's about helping you recognize your own worth. It's about strengthening your ability to walk away from anything less than what God intends for you. It's a wake-up call to stop settling for fake love, false support, and surface-level friendships. When God allows you to see the truth, He's not trying to hurt you. He's offering you the chance to break free. Free from patterns that drain you. Free from cycles of disappointment. And free to start again, this time with clarity and purpose. When you're finally able to see someone for who they really are, don't chase after them. Don't plead with them to stay. Let them go. Release them with grace. And then pay close attention to what God brings into that open space. Because you'll see it, how God turns what once felt like a painful setback into a divine setup for something far greater. You'll come to understand that exposure isn't just the end of a chapter. It's the start of a brand new one. And when the dust finally settles, you'll realize the painful truth. What God removed was never part of your true destiny. It was simply part of the path that led you toward it. One of the hardest things to grasp, especially when you're hurting, confused, or betrayed, is God's timing. It's natural to wonder why it took so long for the truth to come to light. Why did you invest so much energy, love, and time into someone who wasn't genuine? Why now? Why didn't God reveal it sooner? But God's timing is never accidental. It's never random. Everything He does is intentional. And when He finally lets you see how fake someone was, it's because you're ready. Ready to see. Ready to let go. Ready to move forward. God always chooses the exact right moment, both for your life and for your purpose. When you experience betrayal, it's easy to get caught in a loop of questions. Why didn't I see it sooner? Why didn't God warn me earlier? But here's the thing. If He had revealed the truth too soon, you might not have been ready to handle it. Sometimes God waits, not because He wants you to suffer longer, but because He needs you to be stronger, wiser, and spiritually prepared. He knows that truth can be heavy, and He waits until your shoulders are strong enough to carry the weight of what He's about to show you. Have you ever looked back at a past situation and thought, if I had known the truth back then, I wouldn't have been able to deal with it? Maybe you would have held on tighter to what God was actually trying to remove from your life. Maybe you would have resisted the change that was necessary for your growth. But now, in this current season, you are different. You've grown. You're stronger. You've developed resilience, and your faith has deepened. That's why God chose now to reveal the truth. His timing isn't just about the event itself. It's about your readiness, your development, and what He's been building within you all along. God is strategic. He knows exactly where you're going, and He knows exactly who can't go with you. Sometimes He allows certain people to remain in your life just long enough for you to reach the level of maturity where you can see them clearly. Not because He wants to mislead you, but because He wants you to learn, to grow, and to gain the wisdom necessary for your next chapter. God never wastes an experience. Even your deepest pain is not pointless. Even betrayal, as devastating as it feels, can become a blessing when you view it through the lens of God's perfect timing. I've heard story after story People discovering betrayal not a moment too soon or too late, but right when they needed to. Sometimes that truth came just in time to protect a calling, prevent a bigger fall, or make room for something far more aligned with their purpose. Sometimes the revelation comes right before a major decision, and that truth saves someone from making a disastrous choice. Other times, it arrives just as they're stepping into a new opportunity, and that exposure becomes protection, keeping the wrong people from following them into their next season. God always knows what he's doing. He sees the end from the very beginning. So when he reveals the truth, it's not a disruption. It's a divine intervention. What may feel like chaos in the moment is actually God stepping in at exactly the right time, preserving your future and guarding your calling. But his timing also tests our trust. It's easy to trust God when everything is clear, when every answer is in place, and life feels stable. But real faith is formed in the waiting. It's built when you have to trust God without all the answers, when you have to believe that his timing, even when it doesn't match yours, is still perfect. God might not show you the truth when you want it, but he will always reveal it when you need it. And when he does, he won't leave you unprepared. He'll equip you with the insight, the peace, and the strength you need to carry it well. Sometimes, the waiting isn't about the other person at all. It's about you. God may be using that time to stretch your patience, to build your resilience, or to refine your character. He might allow certain events to unfold just long enough for you to be fully prepared, so that when the truth does come out, you don't just react, you respond with wisdom. Because when God finally shows you how fake someone is, he's not simply revealing them. He's realigning you. He's positioning you more precisely in your purpose. And that alignment often requires separation. Yes, waiting on God's timing can be incredibly frustrating, especially when you feel more than ready for answers. But when he finally pulls back the veil, when he shows you what was hidden, you'll feel a kind of peace that only he can give. And suddenly, it all starts to make sense. You begin to understand why certain doors never opened and why others had closed. You start to understand why certain relationships didn't work out, why specific people had to leave your life, and why some connections you once fought for were never meant to last. What once felt like an unexplained delay now begins to look like divine protection. What once felt like confusion transforms into undeniable clarity. It's crucial to remember that God isn't only focused on where you are right now. He's deeply invested in where you're going. His timing is never random. It's intricately woven into your destiny. And sometimes he holds back the truth, not because he's hiding it, but because you're still being prepared to receive it. When you look back over your journey, you'll begin to realize that every step, every pause, every unanswered prayer, every hidden truth was part of his perfect plan. He wasn't withholding something good from you. He was preparing something better for you. And when the truth finally came to light, it didn't just set you free from fake people. It broke the chains of confusion, doubt, and emotional deception that had been holding you captive for far too long. So when God reveals the truth, resist the urge to ask why it didn't happen sooner. Instead, thank him for revealing it at the exact moment you needed it most. Trust that his timing wasn't a delay, it was a divine gift. A sign that he's been guiding your steps, protecting your spirit, and leading you to exactly where you need to be. And when that truth sets you free, don't look back. Step boldly into the future he has prepared for you, walking in confidence, knowing that his timing is never early, never late, always perfect. Still, when someone's true colors are finally revealed, it can feel like a punch to the gut. You may feel a mix of betrayal, disappointment, and even embarrassment for not having seen the signs earlier. That's a normal reaction, but one of the most powerful things you can do in that moment, when God shows you the truth, is to shift your perspective. Instead of staying stuck in the pain, ask yourself, what is this teaching me? What am I supposed to learn from this experience? Because the truth is, every experience, especially the painful ones, holds a purpose. God doesn't waste pain. He doesn't waste hurt. He uses it to shape you, to strengthen you, and to prepare you for what's ahead. The next step in healing is learning from the experience, And that starts with something simple but essential: acknowledging your feelings. It's okay to feel disappointed. It's okay to grieve the loss of a relationship you once believed was genuine. You don't have to pretend like it didn't hurt. In fact, denying your emotions only delays your healing. But eventually, you reach a point where you can't stay in that pain forever. At some point, you have to make the conscious decision to move from pain to purpose. You have to look at what happened and ask God, what do you want me to learn from this? Maybe He's teaching you the power of discernment, helping you recognize red flags that you may have overlooked. Maybe He's revealing that your boundaries need to be stronger, showing you that not everyone deserves unlimited access to your heart, your time, or your trust. Sometimes the lesson is even deeper. It's about your self-worth. When someone betrays you, especially someone you cared for deeply, it can shake your confidence. It can make you question your value. But here's the truth. Your worth was never tied to how someone else treated you. Your value isn't determined by how loyal others are to you or how genuine they appear to be. God uses these painful moments to remind you that your worth is set by Him and Him alone. No one else has the authority to define your value. When you begin to see yourself through God's eyes, everything shifts. You stop handing other people the power to dictate how you see yourself. You stop letting fake love control your confidence. Instead, you stand tall, anchored in the truth that you are loved, chosen, cherished, and worthy, regardless of who stays or who walks away. Another profound lesson that often comes from these experiences is the importance of forgiveness. And let's be honest, forgiveness is not easy. It doesn't mean that you have to welcome someone back into your life. It doesn't mean pretending like the betrayal didn't happen or minimizing the damage it caused. Forgiveness is about you. It's about breaking the hold that pain has on your heart. It's about choosing freedom over bitterness and peace over resentment. God calls us to forgive, not because the other person necessarily deserves it, but because you deserve to be free. When you forgive, you're not excusing the behavior. You're releasing yourself from the burden of carrying it. You're making space in your heart for healing, growth, and the future God is leading you into. When you choose to forgive, you're not just letting go of the past. You're reclaiming your power. You're taking back the emotional space that betrayal once occupied in your mind and your heart. Forgiveness releases the hold that pain and disappointment had over your thoughts, your moods, and even your future. It's in that release that you step into the freedom God always intended for you. But learning from this kind of experience isn't only about the other person. It also involves honest reflection. Looking inward with courage and humility. This isn't about blaming yourself. It's about growing through self-awareness. Did you overlook the warning signs? Were you holding on when you should have let go? Did you keep investing in the relationship while the other person was slowly withdrawing? Sometimes, God uses these moments to teach you how to trust your inner discernment. He reminds you to pay attention to that quiet voice within, the Holy Spirit guiding you when something feels off. And when you start listening to that nudge instead of dismissing it, you begin to move with more wisdom, more strength, and more confidence. With every lesson learned, you become more grounded. You grow stronger, more resilient, and far better equipped to recognize what's real and what's not. These difficult experiences, though painful, are often the very moments God uses to draw you closer to Him. He's not just teaching you about trust in people. He's reminding you to trust in Him. Because people will fail you. People will change. People will disappoint you. But God never will. And when someone turns out to be fake, it's a wake-up call to shift your focus back where it belongs, to God. He wants to be the foundation you stand on, the voice you follow, and the love you depend on. His love is the only one that never wavers, never fades, and never fails. When you truly take that lesson to heart, it transforms the way you approach every relationship in your life. You stop searching for validation from people who were never meant to define your worth. You start anchoring your identity in who God says you are. And when that shift happens, when you genuinely learn the lesson, you begin to break cycles. You stop repeating the same patterns. You stop attracting the same kind of unhealthy relationships. You begin to see the red flags sooner and set boundaries faster. You learn to say no with confidence and to walk away without guilt. God will keep bringing the same test until you pass it. But once you do, once you finally grasp what He's teaching you, you step into a new level of wisdom. You start to see clearly. You start to recognize the counterfeit before it has the chance to take root. As you grow through these experiences, you begin to develop a deeper sensitivity, a radar for inauthenticity. You start recognizing problematic behavior before it has the chance to hurt you again. You learn how to guard your heart, not by shutting people out completely, but by being wise about who you let in. You protect your peace without becoming cold, and that balance is a sign of real growth. One of the most powerful and beautiful things about learning from painful experiences is that God can take your story, your heartbreak, your healing, and use it to bless others. What once felt like personal pain becomes a public testimony. And once you've made it through to the other side, your journey can become a light for someone else who's still walking through darkness. You can share your story with someone who feels lost. You can offer perspective, compassion, and truth to someone who doesn't yet see a way forward. Your breakthrough becomes proof that healing is possible, that hope is real, and that no situation is beyond God's ability to redeem and restore. When you allow God to work through your experiences, your growth can become the very thing that encourages someone else not to give up. So when God reveals how fake someone was, don't let that revelation harden your heart. Let it sharpen your discernment. Let it make you wiser, not colder. Stronger, not bitter. Let it teach you, stretch you, and refine you. Take the lesson, apply it, and move forward with both wisdom and grace. Because every experience is a chance to evolve. Every hurt is an invitation to heal. And every revelation is an opportunity to step closer to the calling and purpose that God has placed over your life. When God allows the truth to be revealed, it's not just about removing someone from your life. It's about preparing you for the next season of your journey, one filled with deeper wisdom, greater strength, and a clearer sense of who you are and what you're called to do. When God allows you to see how fake someone was, one of the most powerful and freeing things you can do is let go. And let's be honest, letting go is rarely easy. It's hard when you've invested time, shared your heart, and tied your hopes to a future that will never happen. It's painful when you've built expectations, created memories, and dreamed of what could have been. But sometimes holding on hurts more than letting go ever will. The truth is, God doesn't reveal what's fake so you can fight harder to keep it. He reveals it so you can release it. So you can break free from what was never meant for you and step fully into the future He's prepared. Letting go is more than a decision. It's an act of faith. It's saying, God, I trust you more than I trust my own understanding. Because let's face it, sometimes your heart and your head will go to war. Your heart wants to hold on because of the sweet moments, the laughter, and the promises that were never fulfilled. But your head, guided by the truth God has shown you, knows it's time to walk away. This is where faith truly begins. Faith bridges the painful gap between what feels comfortable and what is truly right. When God exposes someone's true character, it's His way of gently, but firmly saying, this chapter is done. And no matter how much you try to rewrite it, if you keep flipping back to those old pages, you'll never get to the new story He's trying to tell in your life. So why do we still hold on? Sometimes it's fear. Fear of the unknown. Fear of loneliness. Fear that you won't find another friend like that, or that no one will understand you the way they did. But here's what we often forget. God never closes a door unless He has a better one waiting to be opened. And most of the time, the blessing you've been praying for can't come. Not because it doesn't exist, but because your hands are too full. You're still clinging to what's already expired. But when you finally let go of what was never real, something shifts. There's a freedom that comes like a deep exhale after holding your breath for too long. The weight lifts. The tension eases. You feel lighter, clearer, stronger. You'll begin to notice that something's shifting. You start breathing easier, thinking more clearly, and feeling a quiet peace that only God can give. It won't always happen overnight, but with every step you take away from what was never meant for you, you'll feel lighter, stronger, more grounded in who you truly are. You come to realize that your identity isn't defined by the people who walked away. It's defined by the one who never left. And God, He always remains. He is steady, unchanging, and endlessly faithful, even when everything else feels uncertain. Letting go isn't only about removing someone from your life. It also means releasing the pain they caused. It's about cleansing your heart from the bitterness, resentment, and questions that keep you stuck. Because the truth is, you can't fully move forward if you're still dragging around the weight of betrayal. God calls us to forgive, not because the person who hurt us deserves it, but because we deserve freedom. When you forgive, you're cutting the emotional and spiritual chains that tie you to the past. You're giving yourself permission to heal, and healing is something God does with you, step by step, moment by moment. Don't ever mistake letting go for weakness. It's not. It's one of the strongest, bravest choices you can make. It takes incredible courage to walk away from what's familiar, to set healthy boundaries, and to choose your emotional and spiritual well-being over staying stuck in something that's hurting you. When God reveals the truth and you respond by letting go, you're choosing growth over comfort. You're choosing peace over chaos. You're surrendering your plan in favor of His. And that choice, that faithful step forward, is where true strength is born. And here's the beauty in it all. When you finally let go, you make space. And when that space opens, God fills it with something far better than what you left behind. It may not happen instantly, but in His perfect timing, He brings new relationships, new opportunities, and new blessings that are more aligned with your purpose than you ever imagined. But none of that can enter your life if your hands are still full, if your heart is still clinging to what God has already asked you to release. So trust Him. Trust that He knows what He's doing. Trust that what's ahead is greater than what's behind. Trust that His plans for you are good, even when letting go feels painful. Because sometimes the hardest step toward healing is the one that feels the most uncertain. But letting go doesn't just release the weight. It gives you back your joy. When you hold on to pain, it quietly steals your happiness. It keeps you trapped in a cycle of resentment and emotional exhaustion. But the moment you release what's hurting you, something powerful happens. You make space for joy again, for laughter, for light. You begin to rediscover the beauty around you. You start to hope again. You don't just survive, you start to truly live. And here's the thing. Sometimes the hardest part about letting go isn't the act itself. It's making the decision to do it. Once you choose to let go of what was never real, never stable, never healthy, you discover a strength within yourself that you didn't even know was there. You find peace that goes beyond logic or understanding. And in those quiet moments, you'll feel God's grace stepping in, meeting you right where you are, lifting you up, and walking with you into the future He's already prepared. So if God has revealed the truth about someone in your life, take that as more than just information. Take it as a sign, a loving nudge from God, urging you to release what's holding you back. Don't cling to what He's already asked you to let go of. Don't let fear convince you to stay stuck in something that no longer serves your spirit. Instead, step out in faith. Even when the path looks uncertain, trust that when you let go, God will catch you. He will steady your steps. He will guide your heart, and He will lead you into the fullness of life that He's been preparing for you all along. When God reveals how fake someone was, it's normal to feel a rush of emotions, hurt, betrayal, even a deep sense of confusion. You might question yourself, wonder how you missed the signs, or feel disappointed in your own judgment. That's human. That's part of the process. But once the truth is out, and once the pain begins to settle, you arrive at a crossroads. It's in that moment that you must decide, will I stay stuck in what hurt me, or will I step forward into what God has next? Because God doesn't reveal truth to anchor you to the past. His purpose is always to push you forward, toward clarity, toward peace, and toward the better future He's been waiting to give you. Stepping into your purpose and into God's perfect plan requires a deliberate choice. Moving forward doesn't just happen by accident. It's something you must choose again and again. You have to choose to release the pain, to let go of the bitterness, and to refuse to allow that moment of betrayal to become the definition of your entire story. Because make no mistake, the enemy would love nothing more than for you to stay stuck in a loop of pain. He wants you to replay the hurt on a constant cycle. He wants you living in regret, holding on to resentment, and staying locked in the emotional prison of your past. But God has called you to something far greater. He's calling you into freedom, into healing, into something new. One of the most powerful ways to move forward is to shift your focus. Instead of obsessing over the one who hurt you, start focusing on the ones who are helping you. Sometimes we spend so much energy mourning the one person who walked away that we completely miss the people standing beside us, loving us, supporting us, showing up day after day. Gratitude is a powerful weapon against bitterness. When you start focusing on what's still good, on the people who remain, on the strength you've gained, on the lessons you've learned, the sting of betrayal begins to lose its grip. When you start thanking God for what you still have instead of mourning what's been lost, you create space for new joy, new beginnings, new opportunities that you may have missed if your heart stayed tied to the past. Another key step in moving forward is learning how to guard your heart without building walls. It's natural to want to protect yourself after being hurt. You may think, I'll never trust again, or I'm better off keeping people at a distance. But God doesn't want you living in fear. He wants you living in freedom, with wisdom, yes, but not with isolation. God wants you to grow from the experience, not become defined by it. He wants you to be wise without becoming cold, discerning without being distant. When you move forward, do it with an open heart, one that's been refined, not hardened. A heart that knows how to recognize truth, set healthy boundaries, and still remain open to love. Because healing doesn't mean you shut down. It means you rise stronger, clearer, and more aligned with the life God has been leading you toward all along. Another powerful part of moving forward is connection. And at the center of that connection is forgiveness. But let's be clear, forgiveness doesn't mean you're excusing what happened. It doesn't mean you're inviting that person back into your life or pretending the pain didn't exist. Forgiveness is about releasing yourself from the chains of the past. When you forgive, you're making a declaration. This hurt no longer controls me. You're choosing peace over pain, healing over bitterness, and surrendering that burden to God. Forgiveness is freedom. And while it may not come all at once, each time you choose it, even when it's difficult, you're taking another step out of the past and into the future God has for you. Because the truth is, forgiveness often isn't a one-time decision. It's something you might have to choose again and again, especially on the days when the memory still stings. But with every act of forgiveness, your spirit becomes lighter, your vision becomes clearer, and your heart becomes more open to what's next. As you move forward, remember this: God never wastes pain. What you've been through is not meaningless. That difficult season, it was not in vain. God will take even the most painful pieces of your story and use them for something good. He'll take the very wound that tried to break you and turn it into a testimony that lifts someone else up. Your pain has purpose. Your story has power. He will use your healing journey to bring light into dark places. He will use your courage to encourage others. And through it all, His power to redeem will shine through, showing that no situation, no matter how broken, is beyond His reach. Scripture tells us that all things work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to His purpose. Not some things, not only the easy parts, all things, even betrayal, even heartbreak, even the painful revelation that someone was not who they claimed to be. So when God calls you to move forward, it's not because He's pushing you into uncertainty. It's because He has something better ahead. The enemy will try to whisper lies, convincing you that your best days are behind you, that there's nothing good coming next. But God says otherwise. He is the God of restoration. He makes all things new. He can rebuild what was lost. He can bring beauty from ashes. And when you decide to let go and move forward, you're creating space for Him to do exactly that. You're making room for the new blessings He's already prepared. You're positioning your heart to receive what was always meant for you. And you're stepping into a future that's not defined by what happened, but by what God is about to do. Moving forward doesn't mean forgetting what happened. It means remembering it differently. You no longer see your past only through the lens of pain, but through the lens of grace. Instead of focusing on what broke you, you begin to see what built you. You look back not to mourn, but to measure the distance you've traveled. You see the strength God poured into you when you thought you had none. You recognize the lessons that reshaped your thinking and refined your spirit. You begin to notice how God's protection was present, even in the moments that felt like loss. Your past becomes more than just a memory. It becomes a testimony, a clear reminder of God's faithfulness, and a reservoir of strength to draw from as you face your future. So if God has revealed the truth about someone in your life, take it as a sign, not to stay stuck, but to step forward. Don't linger in spaces where God is no longer moving. Don't cling to what He's already asked you to release. Instead, step forward in faith, even if your knees tremble. Because God is leading you into a new season, a season filled with hope, with healing, and with purpose. The best is not behind you. With God, the best is always yet to come. As we close this message, I hope you remember this. When God shows you how fake someone was, it's not to break your spirit, it's to build your discernment. It's a divine act of love meant to guide you, protect you, and position you for something greater. Trust His timing, learn the lesson, and above all, have the courage to release what no longer serves your future. Choose to move forward with faith. Know that God never removes without a reason and never reveals without a purpose. He is not just exposing deception. He's clearing your path so you can walk in truth, walk in purpose, and walk in freedom. So stand firm, walk boldly, keep your eyes fixed on the one who never changes. Because what's ahead of you is far greater than anything you've left behind. Trust that God is preparing you for something better, and step into your future with unshakable confidence and unbreakable hope. Wishing you strength, health, and true happiness on your journey. And don't forget, subscribe to Mindset Daily for more content that empowers your heart, sharpens your mind, and strengthens your faith.